Hello there, people. This is Nick the Paladin, and I am back to make my Justicar build. I have had plenty of people ask me to make this build for a very long time. Since the very first video I made, I had comments about this. It's been, like I said, real life is definitely been taking up most of my time, so I've only had much time just to make an Oathkeeper build. But seeing how quick my last video I could make by just doing this rather than the presentation style that I did, I can easily have time to be making a Justicar build. But before I get into that, we are going to be talking about some items I've been noticing in our collection that I really want us to discuss about. Because either if you're making a Justicar build or an Oathkeeper, these two items will definitely be good to be happening if you're starting off or if you're just trying to get yourself stronger as a Paladin but haven't been able to get to the end game. So let's first talk about these items. Now, first we have the new weapon set that's coming out of the Bleeding Redeemed Citadel. The first week so far, you've already seen them. It's the Blessed Blade weapon set. It's very good right here for people that are just starting off that need to jump up their damage. Throughout this whole process right here of the Redeemed Citadel, through the next phases, you're going to earn the reagents so you can upgrade these artifacts. But like the developer said, once this event ends, it's just going to be integrated inside the game right there. So people who missed out on it will just not have the enjoyment that we did about unlocking this, that it'll just be in the game over there. So this idea though is that these weapons are actually really good to be attained. So when you're doing your weeklies and getting all of the reagents, you can upgrade these to legendary, and this can really help your Paladin, either Oathkeeper or your Justicar. It can just really help you get your damage up, which weapon damage is really good part of the equation to make your heals stronger, and then it can give you quite a bit of a power boost right there, as well as you can read in the description, and the potential of either two things that your Oathkeeper or your Justicar need, which would be action points so you can use your daily, and then crit severity is good, is very beneficial on either one, doing more damage as a Justicar or your heals critting way much better. So this weapon right here is just is a solid weapon. The Lionheart is still something that you should strive for to get, but this will just be a great replacement while you're waiting. Again, these two are just a luxury item. If you can obtain the Legion Guard, that is amazing. You should really go for that, but these two are just more of helping you get better heals and be moving forward. But don't think that these are necessities, but these are just two great routes to have in-game quality, with the Blessed Blades being the easier one more to attain. So just keep that in mind right there. The second thing that I will be wanting to show is under the Epic Equipment is the Divine Armor Set. This is actually a really good armor set that I've seen just sitting here, but I have no idea how you're going to attain it, because guess what? It's from the Redeeming Citadel. Now, it has the exact same abilities as the IC gear. So you get your 5,000 power from your helmet, you get your 5,000 pretty much 5,000 power from your wrist, and you can be healing yourself from the chest plate. But these are just a little bit weaker versions from them. But still, if this is a little bit more easily obtained rather than the IC route, because the IC route, for 4 weeks, you have to run to get the chest panel and get the pieces for the chest plate. You have to do 3 weeks to get the helmet, and then you have to run 2 to 3 weeks for the wrist right here. So it's a big, pretty long waiting game just to get these pieces, but if the Redeemed Citadel is much easier, then this might be a route for those new paladins that are out there trying to either start a Justicar build or trying to run a Oathkeeper. These are all good pieces to be running for those builds right there. So I definitely wanted to point those out. The last thing that I am going to show is the new artifact that's going to be coming out. I have no idea when, part 2, part 3, who knows, but Golden Memories. This is just a very solid artifact right here, mainly for the Justicar, but again, if you were just going to use it for the hit points and the power and the crit strike, that is great things for your Oathkeeper, but that's really where it kind of stops right there for the Oathkeeper, is just for the stats. However, for the Justicar, though, for your primary artifact, this is a really good piece because you clearing trash while you're running content, or if you're in a dungeon and you're trying to keep aggro on mobs so they're not hitting your companion, all of your company, then this is a pretty good artifact because within a 20-yard radius, if there are 5 mobs, then every mob that is hit, you gain 3% more damage at that point. So you get 15% more damage done to these creatures. Then, if you had an added bonus with the T-Rex legendary mount, that'd be a 10% more damage taken to these enemies. So at that point, you can be doing quite a bit of damage and holding aggro and actually laying out really good damage just to kind of buff up your DPS to actually look like you're contributing to actually like being like a high DPS paladin at that point. So I really think that this would be a great new artifact that I'll be using in my build for Justicar, just to clear trash and have as in my dungeons. And then when it's a boss, it's definitely not ideal for using a boss because you're only going to hit one person majority of the time in these new dungeons, then rather than the kind of old content. So at that point you want to switch to something else, but this is definitely going to be a really good artifact to have in your arsenal. Okay, so let's talk about the Justicar build, but before I do that, I just want to give a mad shout out to one of my Alliance members, and he's a fellow streamer, and he's part of the content community group for Neverwinter. His name is Maku, and he's definitely helped me a lot understand the Justicar and really try to get a better understanding on how to do high DPS. Because I always wondered, I understood the defensive and the aggro, but always running with him, his DPS was just so high. And I've always wondered how he could do that. And him telling me and showing me the ways right there, it's definitely helped me understand the Justicar completely. So I definitely want to give him mad props for helping me out with this. So thank you, Maku. So here we go with this. So pretty much I run a lot of pieces very similar that I run with my Oathkeeper, because I really enjoy playing my Oathkeeper. So I'm not going to spend too much time and effort if I can, so I'll just make some makeshift ways in a very inexpensive way if I can. If there's something I have to buy a big ticket, then I have to buy the big ticket item. But here we go. I run the Lion's Guard helmet for the power. It's very easy to get with IC. Then at that point I run the chest plate as well, just because, hey, I got on my Oathkeeper side. Then I had from Valenhaus, I have the Spike Defender Embracers. You can easily get this from Juma. And then I get from the Seals vendor, just like on my Oathkeeper side, I have the boots. So as long as I'm in combat, guess what? I'm gaining power. Most in-game dungeons, you got about 4,800 power. Pretty quickly added right there to you. run the Lionheart set, but do not think that you must have the Lionheart set. I always say, please just try to get, if you have Burnish or Alabaster, please try to get the Legion Guard set. It's very easily attained. This will help you get your just more power, more aggro. This will help with this more weapon damage that beats the very outdated Burnish set right there. So please get this set if you do not have it. You just do those treasure hunts in Avernus. Please look up videos if you do not know how to do it. Please look it up. It's very easy to obtain. Now I mainly run, I changed up from having my neck for my Oathkeeper to Electric Collar. I needed something that has a lot of Constitution and a lot of different neck pieces have 5k or 5 Constitution, so I just have an Electric Collar. I just used it instead. I still use my sash. I didn't really care what I put in this one, so I just really wanted to have +1 to everything. And I run my artifacts are from the Tales of Old. Every book you get HP and power, which you definitely get a crazy amount of hit points from it. So I definitely like to run these. Then I run, just to balance my stats, the rings. I always say that rings and your companion gear is really just trying to balance stats at that point. So try to find something that you really need to kind of help balance. Mine was a Defender ring of the Keeper. Again, these are it costs like 5k on the auction house right now. Do not buy its counterpart, the legendary one, because I haven't even looked, but I'm assuming it's a little more expensive. Don't be spending more AD for just 400 more defense. That's all it is. Then the nickel plated does my encounters. It does 3% more damage. That's a little bit of a perk because I really needed my crit strike to be up for Zariel, so that just helped me out right there. If you do not have the nickel plated, a really good choice is the Tanner's Leather Ring is a really good choice. And then there are a whole new set of rings that you can use in Avernus. There's a ring that has gives you power, 7,500 power. There's a ring that generates aggro. All of these have different kind of stats where it's the harder ones to get, like Deflect. All you have to kill is Gary and Mog at that point, but there's plenty of content to how to obtain those. You just have to be devoted to get that. However, I'm just trying to make a video on how to make a Paladin Justicar that's pretty quick, so that you can be running content. So these are very easily attained rings because of Tom, and all of these costs, I know the nickel plated costs about like 50k at that point, and then the Tanner's ring is around less than like 30. So it's very easy to get these rings, so don't think it's that hard. But there are better rings out there due to the new mod, and if you're wanting to get those, please farm Gary and Mog at that point. So next we're going to be talking about your stats right here. The more power you have, the more damage you're going to be producing right there. So trying to get your power up as high as you can is always definitely what you want to be aiming for. So I definitely can get my power up about like 150. You're getting yourself to like 110, 120, you're going to be fine. But again, the more you get, the better, because your teammates, your DPS, is going to have about 200k power when you start running with real in-game dungeon players. It's definitely hard to keep aggro on you while they're just being a bigger threat. So the more damage you put, the more bigger threat you are. So definitely need to try to get your power up as best as you can without sacrificing the rest of your stats. So pretty much most content you need to have 85k. With a new dungeon being out, you need to have 90k. So you can get yourself with, you need your armor penetration and you need your accuracy for your offensive stats as high as you can get them. Again, if you can get them to 85k, you can do from IC and below. So do not think that you cannot run this, but it's just for Zariel. For one dungeon, you have to get your stats up above 90, but just try to first be stressing to get it to 85 so you can run content. This right here will definitely hold the aggro, because this means the more damage that's getting through your enemy's defenses. So these are the reason why these two are so important as your defensive. So pretty much these 5 stats right here are pretty much I'm crazy. These 6 stats right here, I gotta count. Oh my gosh. So these 6 stats right here are very important to get above 85k, 90k for Zariel. Then you have your deflect, and that is something that is one of your last defensive stats to be worrying about. But the good news is that there's the new rings out there have a lot of deflect on them, so this is a good option to have. If you have all your other stats and you're just struggling with deflect, go for those new rings. If you have an option right there, they'll help your deflect get up. Then I try to get my incoming healing as high as I can. It's not like it's very hard to do now with the whole change in incoming outgoing healing. Stamina regeneration and crit severity is a big thing as well. Crit severity means the more damage that you'll be laying out. Like I said, the more damage you do, the better aggro you hold. Stamina regeneration is something huge for your shield to get back up. So these are all kind of factors right here that you have to be worrying about when you're tanking and the stats that you need. Alright, talked about that. Now we're going to be going to powers. Your powers are going to be Outwills, your O Strike. This is you're pretty much one of your big aggro holders, is your Outwill, because this does a 3 strike and increases your threat. This is just holding pretty good aggro right there. Then Radiant Slam is the other Outwill that I use, just because sometimes a mob or just a boss may run away from you. This may be a little bit quicker way for you to get to the enemy, because it will just charge you right to them when you're about 30 yards away. So this can be definitely used beneficial, so you can just get to the enemy first, then rather than your team does. Next, I run for my encounters. I run from my Q will be Binding Oath. I use on my E Bane, and then on my R I use Smite. The reason why I use most of these two right here, Bane and Smite, both of them are your big magnitude hitters. So at that point, you want to try to lay out as much DPS as you can so you can hold aggro over than your big hitters in your group. So you have to try to do as much damage as you can. Now, the people run either Sacred Weapon or they run Binding Oath. If you have the feat Sacred Shield, then this will allow Sacred Weapon to have threat increase plus stamina regain. However, the bad news about Sacred Weapon is that it has a 28-second cooldown with a 1-second animation to actually activate Sacred Weapon, and it only lasts for 10 seconds. While Binding Oath, it's a 22-second cooldown with stamina regain when it lasts for 12 seconds. So you have quite a bit more benefit from Binding Oath rather than Sacred Weapon. So that's the reason why I go to Binding Oath. Then at that point, if there's ever a time when I do need to get more threat, that's why I run the Divine Touch kind of way. This is this has been a very fun change up from the usual method that I saw a lot of paladins do. If pretty much you're in Tom or a dungeon where the tank's up front and the DPS is in the back, if you use your Divine Touch and you do not touch yourself for the heal, you put the circle around your teammates, this will heal yourself as much as you healed your team. So at that point, it's pretty much a win-win, and it increases your threat as well on yourself. So it's a pretty cool feat. I would be more trying to get my damage up at that point, because again, the real aggro holder is you doing the damage rather than your feats, and your encounters doing it for you. So just trying to do more base damage will be way much better than doing this. But then pretty much what I'd use for my dailies real quick is Divine Judgment, and then just to do as much as I can, as often as I can, do this because it has the biggest magnitude for us. And then I use Shield of Faith just because it takes less damage for your teammates and incoming healing is increased. So this is just a good double whammy to have. And plus one of the feats I'll be using is beneficial to this as well. Now, you have a few abilities that you have for your tab. If you use your tab ability, it creates this nice glowy armor wing ability that you have. This will be used so you can take less damage at that point. And then if you hold your shield down, you create a barrier. If any of your teammates are behind this barrier, then they take less damage, about 10%, and you are immune to most control effects, but the ones that hurt a lot, you're still very affected. Like I see the chains on the third boss, you're still affected by that. And a little bit of a bonus, your teammates and yourself are healed a little bit behind the cone shape barrier that you make. So pretty much this has a lot of benefits to use. This is definitely used whenever you're about to take a big hit. If you are about to get slammed, this is the ability that you want to use. So like the second boss in IC, when he does Tank Buster, you best be ready to use this ability. In most big hit apparently, and then like in Tom, when he's about to use Annihilation on you, where it's the big glowing ball that comes smacks you down, this is the ability that you want to use. Then moving on right there, my class feats I use is Composure, so my divinity is gained really fast, and then at that point I use Aura of Valor, so it decreases the threat by my teammates, so that just makes sure that my threat is a little bit higher. Right now I have active is Aura of Wrath. I was running with another pally and Tom. I didn't want to be double stacking for no use right there, so that's why I'm running that. Now, this right here is one of the best feats for the Paladin Justicar, because with you using Bane in your arsenal, there's a 5% chance that your Outwill's attack will reduce the divinity cost of your next Bane to 0. This is huge because you could be using Valeria's Strike, and that's great right there, but that's just to a target enemy, and that just does one enemy hit. But if you're using Oath Strike, then that's doing a 3-fold attack, but in a cone shape in front of the enemies. So at that point, you're hitting multiple enemies. You have a great chance of getting a free Bane quite a bit of times. So the bigger the groups you pool, the quicker you'll keep kind of doing a Bane. So Bane creates a circle on the ground that hits enemies in a very good area. So events like Hell Pit, the Hell Pit event, there's just a lot of just killing trash mobs in dungeons. This is where your DPS in those dungeons can shoot up because you are just laying out a ton of damage with Bane. Plus, this is a great way for you to keep aggro while you're doing, you're trying to keep Smite up with after using a Bane, because you never want to really use Bane unless you have a free one, because you want to save your Smite, because Smite will Smite will definitely keep your magnitude up. Then keep your aggro on them. If you're not running Composure, please run Divine Challenger. I'm sorry about this, I messed up right there. I will be running Divine Challenger on here. I do not know why it's on Composure, actually. Let me change that real quick. Whoop. Anyway, so you're going to be running Divine Challenger. So pretty much that really helps keep the aggro, because if you use Smite, it adds you to the top of the list, of the threat list. So if you're ever running Tom, this is a really good thing when you're trading off with a tank, because you'll take the aggro immediately once he needs you to switch. So this is a great way for you to get the aggro back. In DPS standpoint, this is just a quick switch aggro. It doesn't mean you're going to keep the aggro. So you have to lay out the damage. So when you're competing with the DPS, however, it's really hard to just say, I'm going to smite them, because you'll smite them, you'll get it back for a second, but if that creature realizes very quickly that that person's doing way more damage than you, it's not a guarantee that you're going to hold it. So it's going to go right back to hitting him. So you need to make sure, that's the reason why you got to get your stats completely correct. And I know there's a lot of people out there that just rely on their encounters, and that's great, but when you start running really big in-game dungeon, this is something that you need to keep in mind right there. Next is you're going to be Divine Pursuit. You're going to be running this for encounter powers which cost divinity, now grant Divine Pursuit, causing outwills to restore divinity. It's pretty huge right there. That's usually why you use the threefold attack. Sheltering Light, this is really good because you're going to use Shield of Faith. Whenever you heal party members under the effects of your Shield of Faith, you are healed for 50% of what you have been healed for. And then lastly, Yielding Champion. This is when you actually press tab and you actually summon your Divine Champion self. This will make it so that you're not taking up so much divinity, because if you don't have this one, your divinity gets sucked down so fast, and it allows you to block up to 75% of what your maximum hit points is. So this is a really good feat to have, so that's the reason why I chose this. Moving on to Boons. So Boons, just like my Oathkeeper, you're going to be doing power, you're going to do your hit points, and then you just need to put it where you feel like you need it. And then you're going to do, I keep it on incoming healing because I haven't changed this since they made the change right there, but you can definitely use your action points, and then you may want to do stamina regain. If you need more stamina, you can use it on your recharge speed, but I really personally like either doing your stamina regain or crit severity. Pretty much just these three right here. It's just your choice. But I would just choose stamina regain if I was going to change it, but that's not really big of an issue, which one you put that one in. Then your Master Boon, however, is something that is just amazing. Once you get 3 of 3, you will get mirrors all incoming damage back to the attacker. So it definitely sounds like it says. When it was really fun to do was when it first came out, when the Hellfire engine would explode and it didn't permanently kill you, it just made you all have a death head. It was so much fun to let the tank just use an encounter and see if at that point forced retaliation would happen, because that means if he does an explosion that kills you and we'll say he does 999999999 to the attacker. Well, guess what? He just did 9999999 back to himself. So it was just a fun way to keep it pretty much loose, but in reality, this is a really good feat. This is a really good boon to have just for any game dungeon right there. So if they do Tank Buster, the boss will be doing, and I see the second boss will be doing that much damage that he did to him to back to himself. So it's just a really good way for you to keep aggro, because you just laid out a bunch of damage and they still want to keep attacking you. The guild stronghold, you definitely want to run power, you want to run HP, if you have enough HP to sacrifice. So if you want to do Zariel like how I'll be doing, I need a little bit more defense, but majority of the time you run the HP. If you have the Revive Sickness boon, if your guild has that, that is great. However, if they have at least maybe the potions, or if there's the mount speed, just whatever you choose, what you want. Alrighty, so let's see, we're going to companions. Your gear, I really don't want to go over too much, just because again, that's what you personally need for yourself. And then your bonding runestones, of course, be 15. You want to focus on companion gear that has HP, and then I use splinters. Since I'm an oath keeper, I have splinters. Crit severity means more damage. I just run that right there. Redemption is a good one because it heals yourself, so that's a good thing to run as well. And the polar bear cub is actually a pretty good tank companion as well, so I just don't want to spend the astral diamonds, so guess what, I'm running the polar bear cub. Then for your mount, you want to be using Starwart. It gives you 25k HP. This may be one of the bigger spins for you to buy. It costs about 500k to get a purple mount. I haven't really been farming Juma bags in a very long time, but I don't think they drop as good as they used to. But when Juma bags first started, they were dropping purple mounts that had like the black owl bear that had 25k HP, but doing 500k cap AD, rough AD for a week, you could get this mount and that mount to give you 25k HP. Pretty much in a nutshell, the more damage you do, like I kept saying, the more aggro you'll produce, and at this point this means that you will be being a very efficient tank. I really hope you all learned quite a bit from this. Again, I thank Maku a lot for helping me understand the Justicar build and help me get my stats to where they need to be. I really appreciate you all liking my videos, and if you are ever having any questions about anything, please ask myself through the game. I play on PC, and if you are not having a PC or do not want to tuck one there, please send me a message on here on YouTube. And if you're ever looking for an alliance, our alliance is definitely always accepting new members. So it is the Order of the Knights Radiant Alliance, so please message me or one of the officers on the KR Alliance. But thank you all so much, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.